And it was that lesson that taught me that what the government does and what it tells you is not always the truth. That in fact, they will propagandize you, they will lie to you, they will psychologically neuter you and your character and your dignity if they think that it will make you subject to their whims and their plans for who they think you ought to be. So when I found that out, I started questioning the government. I started questioning what it is they told me. I started questioning who they are and how they got in that position of power. I was 19 years old. When I was 21, my best friend, who had just gotten back from Bangkok, Thailand, with a duffel bag full of Thai sticks, got a hold of me and he said, Gatewood, he said, I got something here for you. I think it'll help you. He had seen me in my asthmatic stage. He had seen me collapse when my lungs closed up on me when I was a teenager. He had seen me be debilitated and have to be sent to the hospital because of asthma. And he brought it back and he said, here, Gatewood, try this. This will help you. And it did. It cured my asthma. That was in 1971, 31 years ago, and I hadn't had an attack of asthma since. I'm sorry, it was 1968, hadn't had attack of asthma since. And so I'm unapologetic about being a champion about it. There is nobody in this country who has any kind of degree that can come to me and tell me that it doesn't work, because I know it does. It saved my life. And since that time, I've talked to thousands of people whose lives have been saved by an association with this plant. It is God's most natural, wonderful medicine. And it's people who create artificial sounds like that, who want to create artificial society and live in ignorance and disregard of the basic human condition and who we are as human beings, who are trying to displace our association with this plant. So I was active out there. I was 24 years old. I was a milkman. I was an activist, but a milkman. And I decided at that time, that was in 1971, I decided at that time that I was going to end up in jail or underneath the jail because of me and my attitude and my aggressiveness. I decided there's only 4 places for an aggressive young man like me from Kentucky to go, and that's jail, law, politics, or Tennessee. And I've been to the first 3, and I'll be damned if they're going to chase me into Tennessee. But what I decided was that I was going to start living my life as a warrior, impeccable to my own beliefs, willing to stand up and pay the price for my beliefs. I wasn't going to let the government instruct me how to believe in anything from here on out. I was going to trust my own basic sense, my own basic gut, my own basic mind and thought processes. So I decided at that time that I was going to go to college and become an attorney and become governor of the state of Kentucky and change the marijuana laws. Because then, 31 years ago, as now, the laws against marijuana and the people who are associated with it are the most vivid illustration of how the government has overstepped its bounds in policing private behavior in this society today. They have assumed a position that is absolutely indefensible in the face of the science and truth that's been generated about this plant and its role in mankind. Prior to its illegalization, it was the basis of more than 50% of the medicines on this earth. But there has been a concentrated attack on that. And here's where it's coming from. In 1912, a group of German industries and pharmaceutical companies got together and they formed a company called IG Farben. IG Farben was a consortium of the petrochemical companies and the pharmaceutical companies and the chemical companies and the industrial companies of Europe at that time. And their mission statement as a corporation was to make the human body, its ailments and its cures, their exclusive commercial domain. They set out to make sure they controlled the medicine, and they controlled health, and they controlled life on this planet. And they built all kinds of international relationships with large corporations all over the world, including General Motors and Eli Lilly and American corporations, who were kind of envious of the way that these people were able to get together and manipulate markets and manipulate their own government, which business couldn't do at that time here. So I.G. Farben bankrolled World War I, or World War II rather. They bankrolled the Third Reich. They bankrolled Hitler. They were all the German industrialists and corporations who came together to form the Third Reich, the Nazi nation. And they waged war on the United States. They waged war on humankind. They were fascists. They had no limitations. They had no rules on themselves. And they damn near took over the world. But they got defeated. Fascism, when they are fascists, fascism did not get defeated. The top 22 CEOs of I.G. Farben were convicted of war crimes. That was what the Nuremberg trials were all about, with I.G. Farben and executives being tried. And 22 of them got convicted of war crimes. And one of them was hung, and the other 21 were sent out in exile and in prison. In 1952, David Rockefeller of Rockefeller Corporation came back and got them all pardoned and released from exile, and brought them back and put them into the American industries in kingpin positions that they had occupied in the German industries at the time they were bankrolling World War II. It was done under the auspice that we needed their intelligence to fight the Russians in the Cold War. But what actually happened was that these fascist son of a bitches were able to sink their taproot of fascism deep into the soil of American liberty and take root to where they institute and constitute a threat to the American way of life today. A threat to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the American way of life. And these people have taken over the corporate personage, over the corporate direction. And a lot of the American corporations that they were bought into are no longer American corporations. They're owned by other people. They're owned by people who have never said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America or to the republic for which it stands. And they're not warm and fuzzy about you or you or you or you or your children or your parents. They don't give a damn. They haven't grown up under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. They don't understand how important it is. All they understand is in the implementation of their New World Order and global economy, the American Constitution and the Bill of Rights are impediments to its implementation. They are. These people, they are dangerous. People say, Galbraith, who is they? I'll be glad to describe them for you. They are the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, fascist, elite son of a bitches who represent a threat to us all. And the kinds of checks and balances under our form of government, which should have kept this from happening, have been negated, have been neutralized by the extraordinary amount of special interest money that's coming into our political system and buying off our elected representatives from the top down. Anybody in the Democratic or Republican Party on a national level, except for one person, Dr. Ron Paul, out of Texas, they sold out to the New World Order. They sold out to the global economy. Our representatives have let us down, and it's time we got them replaced. We have to replace the people in office. We've tried, and let me tell you, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. I've run for governor 3 times in the state of Kentucky. I ran in 1991 and 95 for the Democratic nomination for governor. 18 of the last 19 governors have been Democrats. If you win a Democratic nomination, you're pretty well in. I thought if I could win that, we'd be there. But the party froze me out. They wouldn't let me come to any party functions in both of those elections. So in 1999, I ran as an independent and was asked by the Reform Party if we would take their nomination. At that time, I had to have a lieutenant governor candidate, and I came across and wooed Kathy Lyons to join me, and that's one of the reasons I gave her a big hug when I came up here, because she had the courage, the guts to step out here and run as my running mate in the 1999 election. As I tell people, I picked her because she's from Western Kentucky. She's female. She's never been arrested. She brings real balance to the ticket. But Kathy stepped out there and was a part of it. And being outspent $3 million to $15,000, she and I got 15.3% of the vote in the state of Kentucky for governor. That's phenomenal, folks. It's phenomenal. It shows how much can be done on little resources, but a lot of elbow grease and committed people. Margaret Mead once said, "Never doubt that a small group of committed people can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has." So small groups of people can get it done. And it's never too late to be an activist. One of my heroes is Lech Walesa out of Poland, who started the solidarity unions in the shipyards of Poland in the face of the Communist Party and the Communist government. And they took Lech and they put him in a jail cell and took away his union and took away his family and took away all his property. And there he was, a simple man sitting in a jail cell with no party, no property, no family, and the whole communist government of Poland against him, and he kicked their ass. Lech Walesa ended up being elected president of Poland. So don't let them take away what you've got and make you feel hopeless or helpless. Somebody wants to ask Franz Kafka, says, "Franz, what is existentialism?" And Franz said, existentialism is always having a choice. And they said, well, what if they come and they take away all your property and all your family and put you in a jail cell naked? What kind of choice do you have then? He says, well, you've always got the choice about what kind of attitude you're going to take about them doing that to you. So they can never take your attitude, folks. And that's one of the reasons they're really afraid of this green natural plant. Because anyone who would step out of what they want you to be chained in and make your own decision and find out for yourself what kind of relationship you can have with this green natural plant, you got an attitude problem, and I'm damn proud of you for it. You know, if I ever wanted to be known as anything, it's as a constitutional attorney. When I found out I was capable of dedicating my life to something on which I could either kill or be killed over, when I found out how easily malleable and flexible, what a puppet I was in the hands of the government, when I decided I was going to make my own decisions about those kinds of things, I cast about to find out what was worth fighting and dying for in this lifetime. And that question for all of us who are seeking what life is about and the grand adventure of being alive in this birth-death cycle, you must answer the question, what is worth fighting and dying for in this lifetime? Some generations have it dropped inextricably in their lap, like the Vietnam War generation, or the Korean War generation, or World War II, or the Gulf War. Is America worth fighting and dying for? Is freedom worth fighting and dying for? Yes, it is. Who gets to decide when it's time to do that fighting? That's up to you. But what I discovered was the American Revolution. The American Revolution. I was 24 years old and a milkman. I didn't know the history of things. I wanted to find it out. So going to college, doing a lot of reading, I found out about the American Revolution. And let me tell you something. The American Revolution is the most fantastic political event that has ever hit this earth in modern times, in the history of mankind. What makes it that is up until the American Revolution, everything was conducted in a fascist manner. Fascism is when people exercise arbitrary power over you, or arbitrarily exercise power over you. It's like a king or a queen or a military junta. When the king says, off with your head, you're gone. You're gone. There's nothing to stop them. There's no rules to stop them. There's no rules to say they can't do that. And in that kind of society, when it's a successful society and you have surplus of gold and wheat and commodities that are valuable, it all gets laid at the foot of the king. It all accrues to the benefit of the crown or the military strongman. That's fascism. The American Revolution introduced a constitutional form of government which is the antidote to fascism. Because what the Constitution does, it spells out specifically what the powers of government are, and otherwise they are limited in the exercise of any powers outside the Constitution. The Constitution proscribes the government from acting in a fascist manner. And the Bill of Rights came in and laid it out in even more distinct language about what the people were capable of and the rights they had that ought to be protected. But I will tell you now that because of the extraordinary amount of special interest money, because of the so-called New World Order and global economy, because so much is being decided about us as citizens by non-citizens out there, that the constitutional form of government and the limitations it puts on the powers of government to affect our private lives is in great danger right now. It is in great danger. People are not being taught about the history, the sacrifices, the battles that have been fought for us to have the right to be self-determinative. But what you must learn as a generation is that every generation must re-win its own freedoms. That the sacrifices and the blood that have been left by previous generations, they don't ensure your present freedom. Only your attitude ensures your present freedom. Only your knowledge of your constitutional rights is exercise of freedom. The Constitution is only a piece of paper with words written on it. It doesn't have a life. You must give it life, and I celebrate the fact that you're doing that right here by your presence at this in Dolly McNutt Park today. We've got to fight for the Constitution, folks. We can't let them take it. We can't let them take it. In my political gatherings around the state, the reason we got 15.3% of the vote was quite simple. That over the last couple of years, I've married up marijuana and the militia in the state of Kentucky. And the way I did that was that I went to all these people with guns. And I said, now look, do you know that hemp is petroleum? And they said, we had no idea. I said, did you know that a great deal of our foreign policies and the wars that we're led to send our children into are based on an arbitrary scarcity of fuel, and that the same people who are trying to put you in jail over this green natural plant are the same people trying to put you in jail over your guns? And they looked at me and they finally start to cog on it. We have a common enemy. That enemy is the enemy of the entire Constitution and the full spectrum of the Bill of Rights. And then I went to the marijuana smokers and said, look, we ought to get these guys with the guns smoking as much kind herb as we can. It was a natural marriage. What I'm telling them is the same thing that I'm telling you. That they have us divided over one or two issues. We may not agree on abortion. We may not agree on homosexuality. We may not agree on education. We may not agree on any one of several other basic things. But we must not let our disagreement on one or two or three issues divide us under the commonality we share as citizens of the United States, free, self-determinative citizens, all of whose rights of expression and behavior are protected by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We must come together, find the common ground, or else we will be divided and conquered by these fascist governments. You live in